Hello everyone. So in the last video we solved a number of unique subject taught by each teacher, which was 23rd question in the SQL 50 series. And today we are going to tackle user activity for the past 30 days 1. So let's dive in. Okay. So in this question we are given an activity table with 4 columns: user ID, session ID, activity date and activity type. And this table may have duplicate rows. The activity type column is in enum category of type open session, end session, scroll down and send message. These are the type of activities that a user has performed. Now the table shows that the user activities for a social media website. Note that each session belongs to exactly one user. Now we have to write a solution to find daily active user count for a period of 30 days ending on 2019-07-27 inclusively, which means this date is included in this 30 days period. A user was active on some day if they made at least one activity on that day. Now we can return the result in any order. Okay. So for a period of 30 days, including this date as the last date. So let's see an example. So in this activity table, we have 4 users. User with user ID 1, 2, 3 and 4. And as per the question, this will be the last date. That is 07/27/2019. And 07/27 will be the last date. Okay, so these two dates 06/25 will be out of the range of these 30 days period. Okay, so we are not going to include these two entries in the final result set. So these are the entries which are useful for calculating the result. So let's see. So for the first, we have to return the result by activity date. Okay, so the first activity date is 07/20, which includes these 4 entries. And the unique users in this date is 2 users. So for the date of 07/20, we have 2 active users. And the next date is this one 07/21, and on these dates there were only 2 users active, unique users. So on this date there were 2 active users, and for the last date, that is 06/25, we know that this range or the date falls outside the period of these 30 days, so we'll not be including this in the final results. So let me write the query first so that we can understand it better. Okay, so first we'll select something from activity. Now the thing is that we have to select by activity. So for example, we'll have to divide the table into multiple groups, and the groups are based on the date. So we have to divide this table based on the activity date, because the final output shows that we have to return the result for each date that lies between those 30 days of period. We have to return the active users on that date. Okay, so we have to divide this table based on the activity date. So the first group will be these 4 entries, the second group will be these entries, and the third group will be these entries. But the third group will not be included in the final result because the activity date on that group is outside the range of that 30 days interval. Okay, so we'll have to divide this table by activity date. And the next condition is to filter out the rows. We'll have to write that the date we are checking. Okay, so for example, we group by activity date. So this is our group. Okay, and this is our another group. In this query we'll write the condition to filter out each entry, which will be done by where condition, where the date difference of the final date, that is 2019-07-27, and activity date should be greater than 30, and the date diff of this should be greater than equal to 0. Now let me explain you the condition. Okay, so this is the last date, and now let's suppose the activity date is also the last date. So what will be the difference? The difference will be 0. So the difference will be greater than or equal to 0. Okay, and if let's say the activity date is greater than this date, then smaller minus larger is negative, which means we have to limit the result to less than 30 only, not greater than 30. Okay. Also, we are not including the entries where the difference is equal to 30. And the reason being that if the activity date is equal to this date, then the difference is 0. So the first entry in the interval of start date to end date, where the end date is this date, and the first date in this interval, when we include or make the difference of that date with this date, we'll get the difference of how much? 29. And when we include the last date and make the difference from this date, we'll get 0. So we'll have a range of 0 to 29, and the total of this is 30 days. So we'll include the dates which have a difference of greater than or equal to 0 and less than 30. So we'll include all the entries where the difference of the activity date with this last date is greater than equal to 0 and less than 30. And from this, we want to select activity date as day, and we want to select the active user count, that is count of distinct what? User ID as active users. So let's run this query to see if it gives correct result or not. Okay, so our this test case has been passed. Now we'll submit it to see if all the test cases are passed or not. Okay, so our solution got accepted. Now, as I said, that in this solution we have used the where, and the where is used to filter out each entries from the resulting set. So for example, it will filter out these, it will be included, it will be included, so these entries will be included, and when it comes to this entry, it will be rejected, it will be rejected, and then the grouping happens. Okay, but can we apply this to a group level? So first we'll divide it by activity date. So the first group will be this, the second group will be this, and the third group will be this. So can we reject the group itself? Okay, so we are rejecting the entries here, but we want to reject the group itself. So since we are dividing it by activity date, then we can see that having the date difference, we can do this. Okay, having the date difference of, we have to select any date, because when we divide by, for example, activity date, this is the group, we can select minimum or maximum. In either case, we will get the same date. So we can select, let's say, minimum of this, and same for here, because there are many dates, so we'll have to select one date. So either we can select minimum or maximum, there is no difference, because in this group all the activity date will be same. So having this, so first we divide by the group, and that group is totally rejected or taken. Okay, so now we'll run the query. You see our test case has been passed, and now we'll try to submit this to see if all the test cases are passing or not. Okay, so all the test case has been passed. So what's the difference between the first query and the second query? In the first query, we were filtering by each entry. So what will happen is the condition will run for each entry. Okay, and for each entry, it will either reject or accept. So that condition will run, for example, for this activity table will run for 3, 6, 9, 11 times. And for these last two entries, it will reject these two entries and it will accept all the above entries. But by using the group by, we are rejecting groups. So for example, this group will be accepted, this group will be accepted, and this group will be rejected. So that's the only difference between these two queries. That's it.